Thanks, Ninad. Ninad, I was going to tell you that I consider you very lucky to be part of this region of CII. I am new to this region and I have the opportunity to be part of the CII Western Region Innovation Task Force. There's some feedback. I guess the height difference matters. Is that okay, no? Yes, so I was saying that the Western region have the opportunity to be part of the Innovation Task Force, and in a very short while I've seen that the team in CII and of course the members of CII and in general the people of the region are very action oriented. So I am also part of the National Tech Committee, and I can compare honestly and see that once we have an idea we are able to execute it very well, thanks to the CII team as well, but also more importantly the passion of the people of the region. So a couple of things that we had undertaken as part of CII. One, we said let's focus on the tier 2 cities. So while Mumbai is extremely critical in the western region, there's a lot of attention on Mumbai. And we will continue to look at Mumbai as a place where we will have many innovation thought processes emerge from. But we also said let's look at the tier 2 cities and like Indore, Goa and various other places, and a lot of activities now have happened there from the members and from people who are on the committee taking leadership. The other area that we said we will look at as far as innovation goes is design thinking as one of the ways of looking at innovation. Again, we have done quite a bit of work there and spreading the ability to drive innovation using design thinking. And the way we have defined design thinking is to put the customer at the center of an iterative process which both defines and delivers breakthrough outcomes. Right, so it's not just about bringing in the customer when the outcomes are ready, but having them as part of the entire process. So that is the thought process that we are pushing through from the western region, but really the intent is for us to be able to take that message all across the country. So a lot of good effort on innovation stemming from this region, and also efforts from the national committee as well. In the past 2 years we have had great interactions with this year with Canada and the previous year with the UK. And we were able to, for example, with the UK through the Innovation Forum and the Technology Forum, bring the Prime Minister May to India. Her visit was to be part of the National Tech Committee, which runs the Technology Summit in Delhi. So we are able to Ninad's point, use innovation and technology as a battle cry for India and to also push some of the relationships with different countries. The Joint Economic Trade Committee for UK is another forum that we from CII are able to leverage to push mutual relations between India and UK. So a lot of activities, so congratulations to CII, congratulations to the CII Western region for being part of this exciting journey. Today we are going to be talking about frugality, frugal innovation, and I'm looking forward myself to hearing Navi Raju talk about the topic and gain from his perspectives. Of course, being part of the industries, I have my own biases and I'll share. I think most of them will actually be in sync with what Navi will share, and he will go beyond as well. One of the topics which I'm really passionate about is to talk about the debate of abundance versus frugality. And I'd like to highlight that even today abundance is the equation. If you look at Singularity University in the US, which is set up in the Bay Area by some really well-known people, they talk about abundance, the mentality of abundance, and it looks fantastic at one level. And at another level, I believe that it is irresponsible to talk about abundance without further qualifying it, and which happens oftentimes. So the abundance mentality says, okay, so what if in this planet we do not have enough resources, we'll go to Mars. right? My issue with that is, of course, then that what it means is that, okay, we screw up this planet and then take over another planet to screw up, right? So I think we have to be extremely cautious when we talk about abundance as a way of innovation. There might be an angle to it, but you need to realize that the climate change that we are talking about today has resulted from abundance mentality. And by the way, people will tell you that, oh, it takes only 1% of XYZ land to put up solar and we'll have enough energy for the whole world. But realize that it is only 400 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere which has made the change, right? And this is just a growth from 200 parts per million. So really the difference is 200 parts per million in carbon. So 200 parts per million, you count the percentage, and if you say 1 percentage point, that's how mistakes are made. So let's bring in this angle of frugality and the thinking of frugality. So frugality is not just about doing more for less, but it should be about consuming less. It should be about taking care of the planet for other species which exist with us, and it should be about taking care of the planet for the future generations, not only for the human genus, but also for all the other genuses and species which are out there. Right, and India does have a cultural advantage over that domain of frugality and sustainability, which can help us become the seat of innovation for the new dawn of innovation. So let me talk about cultural advantage. Does something like that exist? Can that be taken advantage of? So in the US, if you look at it, which is the most innovative country, and there is no two ways to think about it, you look at any metric, and they will come across on top, and that advantage is driven actually by diversity. So I studied in the US, I did my master's and PhD there, I worked in the US, and very clearly the advantage doesn't come from one set of population. It actually comes because in the university the faculty are from all parts of the world, and the best from all parts of the world. Similarly, the students are from all parts of the world. Gender diversity is very strong. So the diversity of thought process which it enables pushes the innovation, right? So that is the cultural advantage which has enabled US to create the wealth for its nation. Think about Israel, very small country, population wise lesser than any of our big cities, but a seat of innovation, and the cultural advantage there, and I found this out by working with them pretty closely on some of the funding that we provide from the Tata group, is that they're very assertive. So in one interaction, we were debating whether to fund or not agricultural innovation, and I was saying that this is not ripe for funding at this point of time for various technical reasons. And the faculty member requested if he could speak in Hebrew, because his passion could be only expressed in Hebrew. And the fellow faculty member said, no, everybody doesn't understand Hebrew. I said, no, let him talk in Hebrew, just translate it for some of us. And so he spoke. He said that agriculture emerged from the Fertile Crescent, which is around Israel. And I want the new wave of agriculture to emerge from this same region. And I want to be the person who drives that. You know, that kind of passion and that kind of assertiveness is actually good. And I would like to see that same kind of passion and assertiveness on frugality from this region. So Israel's cultural advantage is assertiveness. They will not doubt anything, even though technically it is not at all possible. They will still believe that it can be done. Right? To that level they are assertive, which is, I don't think, a wrong thing. In China, it is about scale. Every small company that you visit in China will only talk about 250 million users, nothing less than that, right? If you go to a large company, it will be 1 billion plus. The total population of the world is only 7 billion in that region, but they will not talk of anything less than 1 billion if you go to a large company. So the thinking of scale is the advantage that China has culturally. South Korea, anyone? What could be their advantage? In fact, they call it Pali Pali. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's spelled P-A-L-L-I, Pali Pali, which means quickly, quickly, or jaldi, jaldi, right? So speed, as opposed to in Karnataka where Sunil and I are from, Swalpa adjust madi, which means, just adjust little bit. That's the difference. Not good and bad. I'm saying the cultural advantage of South Korea is speed. And even if you look at their network speeds, it's 10x the network speeds of any other place, right? So speed is the cultural advantage of South Korea. In India, the cultural advantage is frugality and sustainability, and there are many examples that you can give. So let me talk a little more about frugality from my own experiences as well as from observations. One way to look at frugality is how can I invest lesser and get more out, or how can I be more productive? And it's okay to think like that. But the challenge in India, I would say, is that we invest too less into R&D. Right? So our investments are in the order of 1% of GDP, of which most of it is actually coming from the government and very little from the industry. And there are reasons for this, and there are things which the government can do in the initial stages to push up that investment, and then the industry has to take over. In the Tata Group, we are at 2.5% of our revenues in terms of investment into R&D. That's also not sufficient. I would like to see 4%. And even that 2.5% is because few companies are investing significantly more. Right? So we need to see that spread out more. So while I talk in the remaining portion about frugality, I don't want to de-emphasize the need to invest into R&D. Right? So let me highlight why I say that a little more also. But let's first start talking about lower investment. What are the models which will get you to higher productivity output even with lower investments? Of course, we will always talk about the Mars mission and the fact that we have sent a mission to Mars at a fraction of the cost that the rest of the world has. And it is the right example to give, and there's a significant advantage in India to be able to do similar things that have happened in the rest of the world. But what I would like to do is talk about what it takes to be the first to do that. And it takes more investment to be the first to do that. And we have to pick one or two areas where we would like to be first. The models that we have used in the Tata Group, I'll give you as an example because that's the best I can talk about. One example is there is a lot of work which has happened in silos in each one of the companies. So we are able to bring it together at the group level, stitch it together and deliver key technologies very quickly. As an example, tomorrow we are going to have a demonstration of the world's first closed cathode fuel cell for telecom towers. Why closed cathode? Because it will last 3 times longer. And why fuel cells? Because it burns or it provides cleaner form of electricity because of higher efficiency if you're using fossil fuel, or you can actually split and get hydrogen from water if you're using renewable energy. Right? But the way we have been able to bring this out within a year and a half is because we were able to tap into the work which was already ongoing at various group companies and partner with an external university-based research institute which had developed a portion of the system called the closed cathode stack. And so we were able to stitch it together, and with 2 people on my team, we were able to bring out a fuel cell. Now, if we didn't have these 2 people, we wouldn't have brought out the fuel cell, despite the work happening in the various silos, despite the work existing in the university as well. So it is the ability to understand what is out there, bring it together in an effective manner, using open innovation, using reach into the external world and tapping into all the knowledge which is internal, that we were able to do this. So avoiding waste both internally and externally, and not repeating work which already has happened, is the way we did it. And I think Sunil is here, he'll talk about some more efforts that we do in open innovation, that we reach out to the world, both faculty and companies, to help us with innovation. So that is one way you can do more with less. I'm sure Ninad will, we'll hear more from Navi on how to do more with less in terms of productivity of innovation. There are various other examples which we can talk about in terms of how to do more with less, but I'll move on to how to get more value. Right? An example from the Tata Group is nano. So we invest maybe even more so that we can produce products which provide more value to our customers. And the nano is a great example of being able to push the entire industry to a new value point. So the entire entry point for the automobile industry changed because of the nano. Nano being successful or not, we can debate. But there is a future where there will be an electric nano, and that will both take into account the better value for the customer as well as better value for the environment. But innovations there, as an example, instead of 2 wipers, you have 1 wiper. You use smaller size of tires, you use lower speeds for the engine, because we know that even if you have 200 horsepower engine on the Indian roads, you will not be able to use that horsepower other than to show off. So if you can take off that show off piece, what you need on the Indian roads we can provide for a much lower cost. So you meet all the needs. I'll give you also a couple of examples from my previous life. ECG machines, the top end ECG machines are about $10,000. Right, and we were able to create ECG machines first for $2,000 and then $500. One of the examples of innovations which I'll describe is that for the printing of the ECG machine, this is my GE life, we used to use a GE printer, which we were very proud of, very high quality print and also very expensive. What we were able to do there is actually go out into the environment we are in and say what can we leverage from this environment. And can you believe that GE, which is extremely reluctant to change its technology, agreed to go for a bus ticket printer for its ECG machine. Right, this is the same printer which prints your bus ticket, it prints the ECG machine, no clinical efficacy loss. At the same time, you are able to reduce the cost from $10,000 to $500. This is not the only element, there are multiple such elements. But the thinking is what I'm talking about, a functional breakdown so that you figure out what else can you use from. So printer for the bus ticket is not from the medical industry. It is not from any industry that we would look at normally. But think about it, the supply chain is already there because there are so many bus ticket printers. It is already ruggedized because they are printing it in the villages in India. And we wanted our ECG machine to go to the villages. So that is the beauty of being able to think like that. Similarly, baby warmer, I'll give you 2 examples there also. To be able to, instead of hydraulic movement of the bed, to be able to use a car seat mechanism to change the tilt of the bed where the baby is placed. We do not have a problem using a little bit of our hand motion as opposed to pressing a button and it automatically sets itself to a particular position, the bed. Maybe even we are more comfortable with the hand motion. Right, so that's one example of bringing down cost considerably. The other example is moving from various other forms of lighting. So first incandescent and then looking at CFL kind of lighting to LEDs. LED lighting actually, if a baby has jaundice, not only provides cheaper form of lighting but also provides the right spectrum. You can control the spectrum of the light to actually treat the jaundice. The bilirubin which needs to be removed will be removed without exposing the baby to any other form of radiation. So now globally they want only that, right? So it is lower cost, it is more effective. It's in this case not that we are maintaining clinical efficacy, we are actually improving it and lowering the cost. So that's the kind of thinking which goes into the lowering of cost or increasing the value as we should think about it. But it doesn't come from taking the existing equipment and removing parts. It actually comes by building it ground up. You have to build it for the market here. That's why I do not like the term reverse innovation. We are not. That actually makes you feel that this fulcrum of innovation is in the Western world. So whatever we do here is reverse. No, we are innovating for the market here, for some of the biggest markets, and that's how we should think. Finally, sustainability. We have to innovate to consume less, use fully, reuse, and also sequester. So this is the kind of thinking, and again technology has a role to play here. I'll give you one example of what we are doing from our group. Graphene is a wonder material, and of course carbon nanotubes also have been touted as wonder materials. They have not delivered to its promise. Both of these are 2D materials, which means they're 1 atom thick. Right? So graphene, I believe, and my team believes, that has a greater promise than even carbon nanotubes. We are able to produce graphene. Tata Steel came up with this approach of producing graphene from what is known as seed lac in English, or lakka in local language. Lacca is a material which is used for the royal seals. You know, the red color seals which used to be used long time back. That is the same material. It's produced by an Indian insect interacting with an Indian tree, which produces a resin. And that resin supply chain is quite large because industrially it has many other uses. So now we are able to produce graphene using the right kind of heat treatment processes in vacuum and so on from this material. So it is technically involved, but you are able to produce low cost graphene, but it's also low grade graphene. Just like steel, you will have various grades of graphene. But this low grade graphene can coat steel, and you can use lesser content of steel. So if you have a particular thickness of steel for a particular application, you can use lower thickness of steel, because this graphene coating will increase the life of steel. So very technical solution, but very sustainable in that I am reducing the amount of steel used. It's actually eating into our own business because we are steel makers. Right, but the way we can be successful as a business is not getting married to one material, but becoming a materials company. So we are steel makers, but not at the cost of the environment. If we can reduce the amount of steel used, we will reduce it. We are car makers, but not at the cost of environment. If we can put lesser number of automobiles and increase public transportation out there, we will. So that is the kind of thinking. And that is the highest value or highest level of frugality that we have to think about, that we will be frugal in what we consume. We will be frugal in what we borrow from nature. And we will be frugal in what we borrow from other species that we share this planet with. So again, coming back and closing with the argument of abundance versus frugality, let us not allow abundance to win. Let us be the champions of frugality. And who better than people in this room, who better than people in this region, and who better to take this further from here than Navi. So with that, I thank you for this coming here and listening to Navi, and also the panel which follows. Thank you very much.